Together in Eureka is part of a larger First Five Humboldt initiative called the Building Communities to Build Healthy Families initiative. And the Better Together program was started as a pilot project to offer small grants or seed money to neighborhood and community level groups to organize around issues that are important to them. So what we do is we offer these small grants and technical assistance, which basically means help to neighborhood groups who want to apply to do things, and it can be a whole range of different things. You know, we've funded Dia de los Niños, or Day of the Child. We've funded the Hmong New Year, and we've come to fund a handful of different community gardens around Eureka. And it's been a pilot project for the past 3 years, and we're really hoping to take it Humboldt County wide. And it's really about grassroots neighborhood groups, what we sometimes call everyday people in their neighborhoods who want to organize around things that are important to them. And it's supposed to be a capacity building grant, seed money to start something exciting for folks. So I want to say it was in '07 that I was approached by Food for People, who are the managers of the Henderson Community Garden, and they wanted a small grant to help the gardeners. It's an all Hmong community garden in the Henderson community, and they wanted to apply for some small funds to, you know, make the garden a little nicer, add some things to it, and so that's how I first got involved with the community garden there. Some years later, I got wind that the city was looking at redeveloping that plot of land that the community garden sits on, because technically that land belongs to the city. They lease it to nonprofit Food for People for $1 a year, and it's a nominal fee, which is really great, but it's also a way that the city can continue to hold the property rights to that land. So that was a couple of years ago that happened, and we helped the gardeners advocate for their garden space so that it wouldn't be taken over by the city. So when we first funded this garden, you know, we thought that we were just funding a garden effort, you know, that this was just an opportunity for the gardeners to expand on what they already had here. But, you know, we came to learn that there was really more going on, and that there was a conflict going on with the city, between the city and the gardeners. There are two competing understandings of the land where the garden sits. You know, the city characterizes the garden as sort of an atomized, static, vacant plot. And the gardeners, they see this as a space that's intricately intertwined with the social fabric of their community. So those two understandings really compete with each other. So yeah, the characterization by the city of this plot as vacant in some way is, I think, really insulting to the gardeners, because in essence it invisibilizes their use of the space. But what happens a lot of times with the city governments as they change and as, you know, the economy goes on a downturn, they look at their surplus properties to see what kind of capital developments they can use those properties for. And so they see this property, and even though this has been used as a community garden for decades, they continue to characterize it as vacant and as if the gardeners aren't in this space using it. So maybe I should give you some background on the community garden. This garden space isn't like all other community gardens. It's an all Hmong community garden. And it's been an all Hmong garden since about the 1980s, I believe. So this particular garden space is one in which difference in power relations really play themselves out. Like if you think about the differences between the city's characterization of the space and the community's characterization of the space, they're really in conflict with each other. So in some ways, community gardens, like most community gardens, but especially this one, embody a pattern of resistant use, because this is a non-capital intensive use of a city-owned property. So it's really contrary to what the city would like, which is to develop this for capital purposes. Like in Fresno and in LA, you could see the pattern that occurs in the same kind of gardens. You know, the city wants to use them for capital intensive purposes and evicts the gardeners for that purpose. And we face that here, they face that in Fresno, and they face that in LA. So one of the things that people don't really know about this garden space is that this is really an opportunity for the Hmong families to grow food that are culturally specific to them. This plant, for instance, is called a bitter gourd, or I've heard it called a bitter squash as well, and you don't find it in grocery stores anywhere here. And the bed is also filled with mustard greens and plants that are not typical to our grocery stores. So there's a tie between this kind of urban agriculture and the struggle for food sovereignty. And food sovereignty combines the notion of food security with the idea that food is more than just caloric intake. It's about cultural identities. One of the things that we have come to realize doing this kind of work in this garden space is that besides being an opportunity to really listen to people here, you know, there's sort of a mantra in the asset-based community development work that people are experts in their own communities, but you know, all of that can be lip service until you really start listening to people. And we've come to realize that a lot of this work that we do here is really about solidarity work, and solidarity is about working with people across considerable distances of difference, and not about trying to erase that difference. I mean, if you look at this space and how this space is organized, there are so many different conceptions and understandings, even understandings of what property means, are completely different, and we take our understandings so for granted, and we try to impose those understandings on other people, and that doesn't always compute.
Chúng mong mà nhớ họ lúc li mà nó chúng tao nó cho cái chia tôi sẽ chia đỡ mới chơi chua cái chua cho cái là chua trò ta ký tên đó nó ấy có nhớ họ lúc li có cho trà thiên rong ấy thiên lấy mua rong lúc chế thiên lấy mua rong thiên chả rong này lúc thọ cố ấy tao dùng cái mình